morning. I'm really happy to have you here with me. The day before yesterday, or should I just say the other day, there was a woman who came into Wente Talks chat and she super chatted Tay. Let me make sure you can hear me before I go any further with this. Yes, my microphone is moving. Hey Zane, yeah, I'm good, and I'm glad I have you. I'm glad I have people like you. Um, So there is, thank you for saying the intro is dope. I did get, oh, I like the trotting hooves in the background. I'm glad you got it. So many people, the beat was actually made for me years and years ago, and I rapped on the beat. But I still had the instrumental, so I wanted to upload that as well, namely because I misplaced the track where I was rapping. But okay, Evo. Okay. Okay, the Rhodes Scholar. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to see. Someone complained about the intro being long, and the intro is a minute and 47 seconds because it takes a while for YouTube to push the video out into the algorithm and get those. It takes about 5 minutes. So most savvy content creators, before the first 5 minutes of the video, they figure something out before they get into the meat and potatoes of the subject. So there was a woman who came in. There was a woman who came into the chat of Wente Talks and she said, I work at an HBCU and HBCUs are under threat right now due to the aftermath of, what happened with Charlie Kirk. And I told her, thank you for the super chat, but we have to stay on the topic at hand. And I felt crushed because she said, oh, I'm sorry. My bad. And I was like, no, please don't say sorry. Like you mentioned a good point. Being a moderator can be very tough sometimes because enforcing the rules means enforcing the rules on everybody. And sometimes there are worthy exceptions to the rules. But because nonsense can, become afoot when you make an exception, it becomes a slippery slope. So, I told her, I'm like, I'm going to make a video about it. I'm going to hold space for it. It deserves to be highlighted. It's just, with the way that things have been going, I have had to kind of crack down as a moderator and request that people stay on the topic. So now that this is the topic of the HBCUs being on lockdown, I'm first going to read to you an article about it, and then I'm going to go through TikTok so you can see some visuals of what's been going on. So just a few seconds while I click on that chilling reminder from ABC News and share that article with you. All right, so this is an article by ABC News. It's called Chilling Reminder: Multiple Historically Black Universities Under Lockdown After Receiving Threats. And I do want to give myself just a little space. I've reached the 5 minute mark. Never mind. I've reached the 5 minute mark. And you've got to reach the 5 to 10 minute mark before you say anything like, threats and, threats of violence, or say, grape or unalive, all these silly things that we have to say to avoid being censored. So, anyway, this is an article written by Tsfaye Negusi. That is a very Habesha name. And you see that Negus, that's that Negus that you get the N word from. And this just means royalty. It means king, queen, noble, royalty. So very interesting. I don't know if that's a Amharic or Tigrinya name, but I know it's Habesha, and I know it's loaded with history. So this article was written on September 11, 2025. I'll actually go on ahead and play this for you.
About the threats and the lockdowns and where it's taking place, Alex.
Yeah, Kira. So we're tracking now at least 7 of these HBCUs that have been under lockdown in the past 24 hours following that assassination of Charlie Kirk. That includes Alabama State, Hampton, Virginia State, Southern, Bethune-Cookman, Clark Atlanta, and also Spelman there in Atlanta. Now, some of these universities have already begun the process of lifting these lockdowns or shelter in places. Others have, like Southern, have actually extended those through the weekend. They've canceled classes through the weekend, which at this moment, that is the longest extension of this lockdown. But I can tell you that the FBI has released a statement. I don't know if we have a full screen of it, but it does say that the FBI takes these threats very seriously because it puts innocent people at risk. While we have no information to indicate a credible threat, we will continue to work with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners to gather, share, and act upon threat information as it comes to our attention. But I can tell you that we've been in touch with a number of students, including some on the campus of Hampton. Our team has, and as you might imagine, Akira, I mean, this is really shaking a lot of these young students up. There's fear of uncertainty and also possible violence as this is yet another instance of their campuses being threatened.
And I see civil rights leader Reverend Al Sharpton responding to this as well. Alex saying political violence or acts of hate get us nowhere. We can march, we can debate, but we cannot cause physical harm to those we disagree with. Alex Brachet, thank you.
So yes, absolutely. These are a group of people who,
Boxes, sure.
these are a group of people who wanted to blame us. And I'm going to go on ahead and give you a background because I did just accidentally click out of there. So if you don't know who Charlie Kirk is, perhaps that's what I should be typing into TikTok. That's what I should do. I'm going to go on ahead, and if you just give me a bit of your time, I'm going to play this for you while I get that queued up.
As the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
Whew. All right. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now I don't want to do that before I log in. So basically, what's going on, Charlie Kirk is a very far right MAGA political pundit, not even a politician, but basically, this is a man who has said things like, the deaths that happen in America that are gun-related, accidental deaths, whatever it is, they're worth it. They're worth being able to have our guns. He's like, yep, like those people are just, held. It's the price we got to pay for being able to hold on to our guns. He's a person who said that Black women are intellectually inept, and he's never met one that he could take seriously. He said to, like, I don't know, it had to be like an 8 or 9-year-old little Black boy. The little Black boy said, I disagree with what you said about the civil rights movement. You said it shouldn't have happened. And he's like, I didn't say it like that. And the little Black boy said to him, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. And he says to the little Black boy, exactly. This is a person who was constantly trying to talk about Black American gang violence, Black on Black crime, all things bad. I think maybe two transgender, what do you call those? School pewers, school people who bring weapons to school and send off rounds into people, as opposed to all of the other school shooters, except for maybe the Virginia school shooter who was Asian, all of the others who are made in the image of Charlie Kirk, of the mainstream American persuasion. And He's just said so many inflammatory and flagrant things. He said of the concept of empathy, he said, "I think empathy is some new age stuff that is made up and it's really detrimental." He called empathy new age and made up. New age and made up. And it's crazy that this person who didn't believe in empathy, everyone is going around trying to coax empathy out of the communities that he attacked. There are so many people of every color online, like, nobody mourns the wicked. There are so many people like, well, in his honor, I'm not going to have any empathy for him because he thought empathy was made up. His last word was literally violence. The last word he said before he passed away was literally violence. And let that be a warning to people, like, you don't get it together one day before you die. You die as you lived. One day you're going to get caught in the act, is all I got to say. How you live is exactly how you die. Make no mistake. And he died exactly as he was. So bear with me here because TikTok wants me to log in, and that's an issue for me right now because the account I want to, there it goes. I was going to say the account I want to log in from, have it on this computer yet, but there it is. Lord, don't send it to my phone. I'm by my, okay, am I logged in? Ciao. Good Lord. Good Lord, the way that took more time than it should have. Go on ahead and like the video if you're still with me, and thank you for bearing with me through these, what's it called? These little difficulties. Okay, so now I am on, you guys see me getting cussed out behind defending the mother of iShow Speed. Uh, Oddly enough, his audience has a way with talking about his Black mother, but I digress. And your comments are automatically visible on the screen. So, absolutely, forgive me if I'm not clicking on anything. They're up there so that they can be shared with you, with all of us. So, all right, we can get to it now. And by the way, the 22-year-old young white man has been arrested for, well, let's click on
Good
this.
morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him. On the evening
Okay, so boom. So Charlie Kirk is gone, and the suspect is Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old born and raised in Utah. White man, white state, white target. This was violence from inside the house, and yet somehow the aftermath landed squarely on Black people. So right after the news popped that Charlie had got popped, Big Perm and his people didn't waste no time blaming everybody but somebody like Robinson, okay? Who, by the way, isn't registered with any political party, hasn't voted, and we don't know how long according to public records. And then according to investigators, I guess had on similar clothes to the ones the suspect had on the day of the shooting, whatever that's supposed to mean. Instead of owning the violence in their own ranks, Big Perm blamed the lunatic left, which we all know in MAGA speak is basically code for Black people and anybody who look like they listen to Beyonce.
Right.
And the results are terrifying because within hours, at least 6 HBCUs, Clark, Hampton, Alabama State, Southern University, Bethune-Cookman, somebody asked Auntie Tia if her baby is okay. I think he played football there. Virginia State, and they were all basically hit with threats. And then Spelman decided to put a shelter in place because of its proximity to Clark. So all these campuses had to lock down. Students were terrified, okay? Can you imagine being a 19-year-old freshman just trying to go get you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich from the dining hall, and now all of a sudden you get a message that you got a shelter in place because some white man in Utah shot Charlie Kirk? That's the danger. That's the spillover. Black folks carry the weight of crimes we didn't commit, threats we didn't send, and violence we did not cause. And this time, it ain't even a stretch, baby. It's crazy. It's off the chain, okay? Think about it. A white man killed another white man in a crowd of mostly white people, and still somehow Black students, hundreds of miles away, are forced to pay the price. This is the twisted logic of American politics. When whiteness pulls the trigger, Blackness takes the bullet. So now let's be crystal clear, okay? Tyler Robinson didn't just endanger the people at that rally. He lit the match that put Black people across this country in the crosshairs. Because in America, the crime doesn't have to involve us for the consequences to find us anyway.
That's right.
How the day you deserve. Okay,
That's
so
right.
We are also following this breaking news today. The FBI now investigating threat calls made to several historically Black colleges
My sister went to Virginia State University.
and universities. The FBI is calling the threats a hoax, saying they do not appear to be credible. However, they are taking the threat seriously. Virginia State University canceling afternoon classes and activities out of an abundance of caution. And Hampton University also receiving threats today. The university stopped all non-essential activities today and tomorrow, including sporting events. Alabama State, Southern University, and Bethune-Cookman University among those receiving threats today. Several anonymous threats have been made against HBCUs in recent years. We are also following this breaking news today. The
We are now following breaking news about a string of threats at a number of historically Black colleges and universities today. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell is following this for us. What can you tell us, Kelly?
Well, Chris, I think this is at this point in the abundance of caution phase, where universities that are a part of the HBU system, the historically Black colleges, a number of them in Virginia, also in Alabama, saying that they have received threats and therefore taking action to lock down a campus or cancel classes or send out warnings to students and to the university community. Obviously, just one day after the Charlie Kirk assassination, in an environment where we've seen a lot of gun violence and a lot of acting out of dangerous threats where citizens can be inadvertently involved in a dangerous circumstance. This is the kind of thing where
All right, Virginia State University, Alabama State University, Southern University, and A&M College, Bethune-Cookman University, Clark Atlanta University, and Spelman College.
universities, as they assess a situation, make a determination for what is down or canceling, to follow through. Communities as well as the
I just got to say, did anybody notice that Morehouse College wasn't on there, even though Morehouse is literally across like a stone's throw away from Spelman? These people are such cowards. They will constantly prefer to threaten women. Spelman is an all-girls school. All girls. I'm going to try to scroll down so I can find Black people commenting on this and not just the news, because I'm more interested in our voices.
What's up, family? Get a load of this. Several historically Black colleges and universities have been placed on lockdown following the assassination of Charlie Kirk at a historically white university.
All the way in Utah. Dude gets unalived in Utah, and for some reason, the consequences are all the way in Alabama, all the way in Virginia. How is that?
Okay, so
Reporting live from FAMU to y'all. They just put us on a dang lockdown, and my teacher just canceled. So you know where I'm going? I'm going home. Can I ask you a question? How you feel about them just putting us on lockdown?
I don't really know too much about it.
Okay.
I hope everybody stays safe and God bless.
Thanks. Yo, I can ask you a question? How you feel about them just putting us on lockdown?
Say that again?
You know they just put us on a lockdown? No. They said that it's been threats to other HBCUs, so they just locked us down. You didn't even know? That's crazy.
Dang.
Yo, I can ask you a question? How you feel about them just putting us on a lockdown?
Yeah, nah, I ain't gonna lie, it's crazy. Like, it's always something going on the telly, man. Like,
Crazy.
I don't know, pal.
You know why though?
No, I don't know why. What's up?
They said they been threatening other HBCUs.
Damn.
Yeah.
So they as in MAGA. They as in MAGA. They as in MAGA. They as in Trump supporters. They as in January 6 people. They as in they.
Multiple HBCUs have gone into lockdown yesterday. My question is, how did Black people get into this? The act was done by a YT man to another YT man. When did Black people get put into the equation? But this is what I knew what was going to happen. They were going to switch the narrative to make it about a race war when it was never a race war to begin with. We still don't know who the shooter is, or at least his name. We got a picture. We don't even know his motives. And then y'all are on here mad that Black people are telling y'all that we don't care. We not finna show empathy. We have no empathy to give. And y'all are mad at us for that. How are y'all gonna be mad at us for not giving empathy to somebody who didn't like us? Even the people that are celebrating it, it's like y'all are mad that they're celebrating somebody who wanted us oppressed. Y'all are mad at people celebrating somebody who said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Y'all can't get mad at people for celebrating that. And plus, we had nothing to do with it. The shooter was YT. I had seen a video of a guy who lives in Utah. He said that he doesn't think that it's a political thing. He said that he thinks that it doesn't matter that the guy was Republican or liberal. What he think happened was the guy who did it, he's about to lose his farmland because of all the tariffs that Trump put in.
The boy was 22, grew up a Mormon from the LDS Church. Like Utah born and bred. Allegedly, there was some kind of a moment of silence for this Charlie Kirk guy, and the European Union wouldn't be quiet. I'm going to look for that as well.
I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. The Civil Rights Act was a mistake.
More cops should be around your neighborhood. Why do blacks have a broken family? White person were to come up and say, you know, Black America really needs to get its act together and stop sleeping around all the time, and it needs to actually have the not.
Why would you?
Because it's true. When blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous. There was less break-ins. Black America is worse than it has been in the last 80 years. What percentage of young blacks have both a mom and a dad raising them? Of course we pander to blacks. They're in every TV commercial.
They're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously.
If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action?
Things got worse since the Civil Rights Act.
Dude looks like he was made by cousins. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He looks
violent, less fathers around, horror.
Why are we making racist jokes?
Look, it's a comedian that was put up on stage. Yeah, what do you expect? But I mean, man, can you take a joke?
You should be kissing the ground with gratitude, because you're right. You are not in Africa, and you should be thankful you're not in Africa.
Certain skin color now gets their own summertime celebration. It's now become a racial complaining day.
Somebody doesn't know anything because we created Memorial Day too. There's a number of holidays in America that Black Americans are responsible for. We literally just started minding our business, observing things, and that's how they became canon. So yeah, another holiday.
BLM. And remember what BLM stands for: burn, loot, and murder. America is poorer today than before we tried to start to help them. Black women married the government and divorced the men that they were once with.
Now that's a Black manosphere lie if I ever heard one, but I digress. That's not what happened. I read the entire Moynihan report on my channel, and yeah.
It should not be a federal holiday. Half of all prisoners are black.
Exactly.
So blacks commit more crime. They commit more murders. They commit more arsons. They commit more kidnappings. It's not a profiling when it comes to that. Blacks are far more likely to commit crimes than any other group. See a black pilot, you wonder, boy, is that person there because they earned it or because they were placed there? When blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous. Death toll likely would not have been as high if it wasn't for DEI. Black culture has collapsed the last 60 years. Systemic racism stuff is a bunch of rubbish. Instead, it's systemic bad choices.
Do you feel that systemic racism isn't real?
Of course not.
How do you feel about the black community receiving?
You think systemic racism isn't real. So when you look at a community that's been redlined, and it's always black, and we know exactly what redlining does, and this community right here can't get a business loan. You can't buy and sell to them unless an Asian or an Arab moves in their community. Then you can give them a business loan. But when these black people show up to banks with higher credit scores, and because I'm from Seattle and my family is surrounded by white people, their white friends will be like, oh, go to the bank. I know so-and-so there. My credit score was so bad and they gave us a $500,000 loan. You can do it. Go do it. And then the black family, my family, mind you, my grandmother had 10 kids, so there's a ton of us. They'll go to the same bank with a better credit score than the white family that they're friends with. It's like, sorry, you weren't approved. You don't think that shit is systemic? Let's talk about gerrymandering. Let's talk about causing Jasmine Crockett her seat. Let's talk about the most gerrymandered communities in America are always black. They're not always Asian. They're not always Samoan. They're not always anything but black. So literally, gerrymandering your right to vote away from you, gerrymandering the influence of your vote away from you. This is why Gavin Newsom did what he did. I mean, these communities, and gerrymandering is just rewriting the district line, rewriting the lines around a community. And when you look at these gerrymandered maps, according to their racism, it looks like they're drawing zigzag, squiggly lines, corkscrews. I mean, they do the most to create a new voting district so that black votes are divided. And Texas is the most gerrymandered state. Those things are systemic racism. When you look at mandatory minimums for the punishment for selling drugs, for example, statistically, powder cocaine is more expensive than rocks. And a black child or young adult man is more likely to be found with a rock than powder. So legally, in black and white legalese, you can get caught with 10 ounces of crack and powder and 10 ounces of crack and rock, and the rock is going to cost you more years because who's more likely to have it? 3 strikes, you're out. A man can assault somebody, rob somebody, sell drugs, and go to prison for life. For life. For life. Who does that disproportionately affect? What community is the most aware of police planting evidence on people? Which communities did Trump send the National Guard to? You got 5 cities and 5 black mayors. I'm not including California when I say this. These are the things that are systemic. Even the way that you behave in a classroom that is foreign to a white woman who is the average school teacher. Oh, that black boy won't sit down. Well, he's a boy and he's got a ton of energy. Oh, let's send him to special ed. He must have ADHD. You just got put into special ed where no one is going to teach you. You are only in special ed to be managed. You are not there to be taught. These are the things, exactly, moving the goalposts. These are the things that are systemic. It's a part of our system. It's a part of the school system. It's a part of the corporate system. You can't show up here with dreads or braids or mohawks or trendy styles. Whole time you're calling it a trend because it's a trend to you, but these are our cultural hairstyles. It's the way that our hair needs to look. And this is why Black women will sometimes walk around here with no hair because she's had to perm her shit to death to climb the corporate ladder. She's had to flat iron her shit to death in order to climb the corporate ladder. Akon sung a song with India Ari, I am not my hair. Talking about how he didn't get success until he shaved his dreads off. The Crown Act, that had to happen because systemic racism. There are certain ways we as Black people need to do our hair or it will fall out. We will not have any, and it will suffice. You're better off in a wig. I've met so many Black women. I'm one of them. My hair is longer than some of my wigs, and they're like, well, why do you wear wigs? It's like, it's easier. It's just easier. I don't want to hear all that mouth. I don't want to get all that attention. You wear your natural hair somewhere and somebody automatically thinks you're there to, protest. Even the brothers would be like, oh, peace, queen. I'm like, sir, I am not a hotep. This is just how it comes out. But a white person like Charlie Kirk will tell you there is no such thing as systemic racism because they've never experienced it, because the system is set up for you to win. It's set up for us to lose. When you see all these Black farmers, all of these Black farmers losing their land, going to court and losing. We own 2% of all farmland in America. We used to have so much more than that. I believe the number was like 14%. You know how many farmers are welfare queens? How many farmers, especially since they've gotten rid of all of these beautiful Mexican and Chicano people who are surviving off government loans? But these Black farmers could have none to help them manage what's going on with them. These are the things that are systemic. These are the things that are systemic racism. And this inbred idiot is going to sit here and tell you that it doesn't exist. I'm going to finish playing his stupid video. Stupid video. It's crazy that in every generation, because I've gotten older, I'm just like, people know this already. I get sick of the conversation, but I often forget that with every new generation of people, literally every 4 years, every like high school group of people, every 4 years, you have to re-educate people about the same damn thing. You have to affirmative action 101 them. These people really think affirmative action is about placing people because they're Black. You have to be qualified in order to be that Black person who gets placed there. As a matter of fact, you might have to be double qualified. This is why Black people are always outperforming their peers. Twice as good to get half as much. Big Daddy Pope, Olivia Pope's father, and Scandal, that great big speech. These are the things of systemic racism, and you got this idiot just you really have to educate people on every level. Things you think somebody would know by now, you'd be shocked. I had a friend, as she completed law school, she's like, chocolate law school is scary because they're idiots. She said these people know nothing. And if they know the law, they've learned something, but that's in addition to the rest of their nothing. You can't talk to these people about race and social things like they're getting an academic degree. They have no idea about any of this other stuff. And that's how she ended up winning cases against people, because they didn't see racism. They didn't see racism. They didn't see sexism. They didn't see misogyny. They didn't see misogynoir. They didn't see the racism in housing law, which is based off of snuffing indigenous Americans off of their land. They didn't see the racism in criminal codes, which is based on black codes, which is based on slave codes. And so she could pull all these things up, and in every debate, she would come out the lawyer on top. And she's like, it's crazy how these people don't know these things. These are the leaders of this was like a decade ago. She's like, these are the leaders of America's leaders of tomorrow, and they don't know shit. And you have to start everyone from a 101 course. This is great big Charlie Kirk that they're calling a martyr, that they're comparing to Dr. King because, they both died for their beliefs. And I promise you they're comparing him to Dr. King because this whole year has been a year of antagonizing specifically the Black American, specifically the indigenous Black American, the Black American who can say, I'm Black, I'm African American, my people are Choctaw, Chickasaw, Yamasee, Washita, Chippewa, Arawak, those people specifically trying to piss us off. So they can eliminate us because they have nowhere to send us. They have nowhere to send us because this is our native land.
In reparations.
I'm against that. Yeah.
With the George Floyd protests, riots. We have a supply and demand issue with racism in our country. We have an incredibly low supply of racism and an incredible demand to try to fulfill it. So we've created racism where it doesn't exist.
I was being schooled. We have spent an entire month on slavery. Totally get it. Terrible thing. But we spent so little time on the brilliance of the founders and what they've created.
Is it about contemplating the good, the true, and the beautiful, or is it about being a gangbanger and trying to get as much money and sleep with as many girls?
It's time for us to stop listening to rap music and this degenerate hip-hop stuff.
Can you clarify your definition of critical race theory?
Call everything racist till you control it.
And we decided to basically usher in the Civil Rights Act as a new anti-racist dogma creed. And I find something fundamentally wrong with that.
What would you say is the biggest non-issue that people make out to be a massive issue?
Okay, great. So I would say, it's not a surprise what I'd say, racism.
That's who got shot in the neck. And yes, I watched the footage. I watched the footage on Xiaohongshu. The little Chinese note app, the red note that everybody kind of went to when TikTok came down for a while. And I mean, just back to back to back to back to back. Like I would try to scroll away and, people are uploading all kinds of think pieces and him leaking from the neck and trying to grab his neck and losing so much blood at one time. He's lean with it, gangsta lean and left. And, yeah, I'm not surprised at all that somebody who belongs to his rhetoric was the one who did it. Somebody who belonged to that kind of Utah, to that kind of life, to that kind of LDS Mormon, whatever. And these Mormon churches and their prophets and whatever, the reason they're allowed to have states like Utah, I think they have Utah in the next state over, is because they're committed to white supremacy. They're committed to racism, white supremacy. For the longest, the Mormon church would not, quote unquote, allow Black people to hold the priesthood. That meant a Black person could not be a Mormon because the Bible says, cursed is every man who hangs on a tree. And the Bible does say that. Cursed is every man who hangs on a tree. And they were like, well, so many of these Black people have been hung from trees. And I love the admission because they want to they want to sweep it under the rug now, but they're like, well, the Bible says curse is every man who hangs on a tree, and the curse of Ham is its black skin. So we're not going to play sports with these people. We're not going to touch these people. Curse. And just like the community people are trying to build in the Ozarks, the government has supported Utah, has supported the Mormons, the LDS Church, blah, 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 because they are that committed to racism, white supremacy. And you look at the way that they build their houses. They all build their houses like have y'all seen them big old Utah houses that look like human farms? maybe I'll show some. Let's see.
They done sat up there and unlied Master Son. I'm heard about that one. They done sat up there and unlied Charlie Kirk. That was one of Master's best sons. He always stood up for what's right. See, y'all gotta understand here. Master help us. Master take care of us.
First of all, she is so, so pretty. She is so, so pretty. I love this because they had a moment of silence, and y'all know how like you're trying to open a cake and you're a little kid and you want to get some cake, and that MFer opens so loudly that you can hear that you're opening the cake throughout the house, trying to sneak a piece. And so on every post, that's like, oh, rest in peace, have empathy. They're like me during the moment of silence, and they have this little empty cake container because ain't nothing louder in America than this. I mean, it's louder than Mary J at the end of the No More Drama song. Lord have mercy.
Master love us. You can't sit up there and celebrate nobody death. They done hurt Master. When you hurt Master and you hurt Master people, you hurt me. Because I live in highs. I live in the slave highs. And we love Master over here.
Do you know Black Americans are the richest Black people on earth?
What statistic
Africa.
is that? Okay, I need you to pull that up like right
Fine,
now.
you can. Black Americans on per capita on average.
Can you pull that up?
And we invented everything also. Your GPS, your cell phone, your laptop, Skype, Zoom, the function of the microphone I'm speaking on right now. And I don't mean the physical microphone. I mean clicking mute and unmute and the microphone that is in the computer. All of that. We did all of that. And we're still not as rich as we're supposed to be. Because for so long, we were inventing everything. And because we were owned, like chattel, you got to take credit for our inventions. We're absolutely the richest people on the richest Black people on earth. But I got a problem with people. They always want to make us African. And the truth is, all people come from Black people, but all Black people do not come from Africa. I'm so sorry for you out of Africa theorists, the people who believe this, because the mounds in America, the pyramids in America, from the mounds in Louisiana to Chichen Itza, they're all older than the Egyptian pyramids. Sorry, even China has pyramids older than what is in Egypt. I don't know why we sit here and have these geology classes and we can actually look at demonstrations of rewinding the earth and its history. We can all see Pangea was factual. We can all see that all this earth was connected. And due to the shifting of tectonic plates, people have moved apart. But what I'm trying to say is many of these, I as a Black American and many of us, we are Aborigines. We are Aborigines. We came from America. We didn't come on a boat. They can't show us boats on this scale. They can dig up 1,000-year-old relics and can't find us a single fucking slave ship. Now the trade absolutely happened, but it also happened in fucking reverse. You had all kind of Aborigine, copper-colored Yamasee, Washita Moors taken from the Americas to Europe, to the west coast of Africa, and whatever else. And I'm surprised Jamaicans are not loud about this, because what I just found out about Jamaicans is that a lot of them are indigenous Europeans. They're Aborigine Europeans. You know how everybody says, oh, the first European was Black and they became white later? A lot of those people in Jamaica, Scottish and Irish Aborigines who were sent to Jamaica. And that's why even to this day in Jamaica, when you want some potatoes, it's like, give me that Irish. Give me that Irish on the left-hand side. Irish. Even the way they speak, I'm like, you low-key got a Scottish accent, homie. And I'm surprised they don't talk nothing about that. You know, they talk a lot about being African, but I'm just like, homie, you are the descendant of a descendant of a descendant of a European Aborigine. We not gonna have this conversation? We're not going to talk about how in Suriname they have those tartans like they have all over Scotland, and a tartan is like that plaid, those plaid skirts that the men's be wearing. They're designed by based on your family name, and literally the cultural attire of Suriname in South America is a tartan, a plaid little thingy. But it's like, oh, Africa, Africa, Africa. It's like, look, we're not denying the Black Americans' ethnogenesis is in America. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why they're always asking us, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? The Black American, the Black American is made up of, so for example, myself, I come from the Choctaw and Chickasaw, right? There is a group among the Choctaw called the Washita, and it's where we get our word Washington. Washington, D.C., in the state of Washington that I live in now, right? Ton is a European thing. It just means town, right? Now, you can say Washita, but really Washita. And we still have those naming patterns to this day. Do you know that Tasha means friend in indigenous language? So when you think of somebody named Montasia, Fantasia, blah, 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 and that's actually where we get the word Texas, Tasia's, it means friend. So all these, Equas and Ishas, we still have names like this because this is our Aboriginal naming pattern. But the Black American comes from the Olmec people, whose faces are carved in basalt. We are derivatives of these people. And due to paper genocide, due to being reabsorbed and reabsorbed and reabsorbed under different groups and under different names, we are Aborigines by another name. Even Malcolm X said in one of his speeches, you are Aborigines, but you don't like to be called that. And that's why Brother Minister Malcolm would call you the so-called Afro-American. That's why he would call you the so-called, or so they call you. That's why the third verse of Lift Every Voice and Sing ends with true to our God, true to our native land. That's why Angela Rye and the sister whose last name is Cross, that's why their podcast is called Native Land Podcast. That's why our MLK said, and the Negro languishes in the corners of his own land, of his native land. Just because Jesse Jackson wanted to betray us in 1988 and start calling us African Americans. And I'm like, fool, you call yourself Cherokee. And you know you're a Cherokee Indian. They try to say, well, Indians are from India. I'm like, you mean Hindustan? Their name was Hindu and Hindi. What are you? I'm Hindi. Where are you from? Hindustan? They got called Indians way later. 1, little 2, little 3, little Indians. Remember when that was 1, little 2, little 3, little niggas? Excuse me, they weren't saying Indian, they were saying Indian. But the Black American ethnogenesis goes like this. They come from the people of the Olmecs, and then you have these waves of Africans who come over. You have 2 major waves of Africans who, if you read Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, they came before Columbus. We know we were niggas here in America first, all right? We know that. I don't care what a Siberian has to say. I'm not going to not call them native because they are native. I'm just saying you could be native. We're Aborigines, okay? They come from these Olmecs. There was a wave with, I don't know why people want to act like Mansa Musa wasn't a literal person who came to America and never left. I don't know why they act like Abu Bakari, the brother of Mansa Musa, and all them ships and all them people. He came over, this was the Mali Empire. 2 huge waves of people who came and stayed. So these people of the Mali Empire were called Moors. These people who were descendant of the Olmecs were called Washita, right? Or just, it's like a family name. It's like a clan. So the Washita are not the only descendants of Olmecs, right? They're not the only ones. It's like how you have 12 tribes of Israel. You have all these names, the brothers who originated them, right? Washita is just one of them. So please, it's not the only one. could say Yamasee, just all kind of whatever, right? So you have these Africans, this Mali Empire, this Mansa Musa, and this Abubakari who mixed with the locals. And then you have the onset of a slave trade. But most of the African slaves who were brought to the Americas were brought to the South America, not to the North America. And people were passed all around to confuse tongues and confuse languages. This is how you get people selling a mother apart from the son, a husband apart from a wife, a sibling apart from a sibling, to confuse languages and to confuse tongues. And all of this was made possible by the gun. Because without a gun, niggas would still be running earth because we'd be whooping ass. And I don't know why the Jamaican isn't loud about this, because the Jamaican has a similar history as far as being Aborigines. Yes, you. Yes, you, beautiful cousin. So he wants to keep, doing this whole African thing to divorce you from America. But the rest of the world knows who you are. You see some of these Asian countries and their Native American Day parades and what it looks like. The Native American up there looks like Shaka Khan. It doesn't look like cartoon Pocahontas. And Shaka Khan is a Sioux Indian. India, it literally means black. Thank you, dark and lovely. I love to see you here. Right. And if you start looking at these Stuart kings of Scotland, you start looking at these older Scot people. Y'all think Queen Charlotte is something that Shonda Rhimes made up? Is that what you think? Because part of systemic racism is raping your history. It's telling history in reverse. Do you think Queen Charlotte is made up? You think it was made up when Queen Elizabeth walked Meghan Markle to a black ancestor of hers? Do you think the pictures are made up when you see Queen Elizabeth bowing to Ethiopian nobility? You think this made up? I was just telling someone earlier today the reason why Victorian design is the way it is. What you don't know about the Caucasian with rhesus monkey DNA, with Rh Neanderthal DNA, is that they grow tails. They are born with tails, and they cut them off. And some of those bouffants and those big undergarments and those big skirts that people would wear and those big puffy backsides of their clothing was to hide that tail, to hide that rebellious tail, because those tails would grow so long that they would knock stuff over. You could, it grossed out African royalty, Aborigine royalty all over the world. And they were trying to conceal that tail until they could cut it off. And ask any nurse, and they will tell you about the cutting off that tail when these babies are born. But literally, these people were walking on all fours and their tails in caves because the sun was taking them out, while Moors were running Spain, while Berbers were running Europe and North Africa. So all of this is racism combined. I don't say that to shit on white people. I say that to say systemic racism is all around you. If you've ever read the ISIS papers, it's all around you. And once you wake up to it, you can't not see it. I used to have an African friend who was a coon. And what I learned about my African friends, or most of them were coons, because they just weren't woke. They weren't necessarily self-hating. right? Very proud of being African, very proud of being Habesha or Somali or Oromo or whatever it was, but they were coons. And they thought very poorly of Black Americans. And I'm just like, once you learn what racism is, you're going to be just like us. You're going to respect us and you're going to feel guilt. And it happened for every last one of the Africans that I went to undergrad with. Every last one of them now was an advocate for Black American people because they get it now. Right. And that's another thing. I'm like, who are you going to believe? Because a lot of Black Americans have been gaslit out of owning their status as an Aborigine. So many of us. It's like, well, your grandmother told you were a Cherokee. Your grandmother told you were Arawak. The history books is Loving versus Virginia. That woman was a pure-blooded Rappahannock. But now we're calling her an African American woman. You look like every Taino you ever seen. But everybody gaslit you out of who you are, so you're like, all right, well, never mind. You know, I'm Black, I'm African. I'm like, you don't know shit about Africa. And there's nothing wrong with an African, but I'm just like, they don't do this to the Australian Aborigine. They don't say no, that's an African. It's like, no, that's an Aborigine. They don't do that to anybody but you. And I don't know, I won't pretend to, I don't fully know why, Black American. I don't know why you're so special that everybody wants some of your identity. Fairly recently, as in 2025, the Cherokee Nation, and I can pull this up for you, the Cherokee Nation is trying to reinstate Black Americans. Cherokee Nation, reinstate freedmen. They're trying so hard to reincorporate us because funding is
oh look,
bye-bye.
Apparently the Cherokee.
And it's like, so what you're saying is you knew we were Aborigines all along. You knew this all along and you called us pretendians. Whole time you're sitting here in front of me, blonde-haired, blue eyes as a $5 Indian. But because your funding is going away, now you want to reinstate us. We never needed your approval to know who we are. And everybody wants to say the Black American has an identity crisis. The Black American does not have an identity crisis. The Black American is stuck with owning 36 identities because of being reinterpreted and reinterpreted and redefined and reaffined and recalled whatever. The Black American, like, oh God, let me just play this because I could really.
Nation now says they're sorry. They admit mistakes, apologize, even honor their freedmen descendants. 2021 constitutional changes removing by blood. 2017 federal court ruling restoring freedmen's citizenship. Sure, now they've done the right thing. But let's see how that timing matches up with their money flow. Funding suspension. In 2011, federal housing funds, some $33 million, were suspended due to the freedmen being excluded from citizenship. Only when freedmen were reinstated were funds unlocked. Congressional pressures. In 2007, the Congressional Black Caucus threatened to cut off federal funds unless freedmen's citizenship was restored. Broad funding leverage, legislation such as the Native American Housing and Self-Determination Act, linked tribal funding eligibility to recognition of freedmen descendants.
Mm-hmm.
Funny how money and moral clarity always seem to coincide.
Right.
Suddenly, oops, we admit blood. Language was wrong. Percolate that through the Constitution, and guess what? Funding resumes? Apologies? Great. Recognition? Sure. But let's also recognize who.
If you come from anybody whose birth certificate ever said Negro on it, specifically Negro, you're an American Aborigine.
Who writes the checks? When the money's on the line, that's when grace shows up. Oh, look. Apparently the Cherokee Nation now says they're sorry. They admit mistakes, apologize, even honor.
And what we did, for those who may be unfamiliar, is we enslaved Black people in the 19th century. and we started doing it in the early part of the 19th century.
Many of those Creeks of African descent continue to be enslaved by the Creek Nation.
So it looks like some changes are being made. Okay. Number one, I'm not indigenous. Okay. I'm not of the indigenous tribes. I do not belong to any indigenous tribe. Never has, not my family. Okay. And but I do understand and know that historically the indigenous did not go by blood quantum, meaning that you did not have to be by blood to be a part of their nations.
Hence a $5 Indian.
Tribal leaders are scrambling this week.
Cherokee Nation is acknowledging that it made a mistake in not extending citizenship rights to freedmen and their descendants until 2017, something its principal chief says should have been done 156 years ago under the Treaty of 1866. Kennedy Sepulveda, who reports on Native Affairs, joins us now with more on the long history that has culminated with an apology from Chuck Hoskin Jr. Kennedy.
That's right, Rich. And nearly 12,000 freedmen descendants have enrolled in the Cherokee Nation in the last 5 years. But just this month, the Cherokee National History Museum in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, unveiled a new exhibit that honors freedmen and shares their story.
We have to.
All of a sudden, when money is short. So I only share that because there are a number of people fighting over our identity right now. The African, the AU, the African Union, you know, with this whole, you see how Essence is is owned by a Kenyan woman now. You see how BET, allegedly they want to get rid of some of these BET awards and turn them into Afro-Caribbean awards, right? You see people like, oh, you know, you're African, and you see other people trying to claim us as, no, you know, you're indigenous. And I'm like, why are all these groups of people specifically trying to claim African Americans or be African Americans? I don't know what it is. But you got a lot of people who used to say, don't call me that. You know, I'm Nigerian American, I'm Ghanaian American, I'm Jamaican. And now everybody's like, what? I'm a Black American like you. It's like, no, we're not the same. It's a lineage thing. Well, I am Black and I am American. It's like, right, but Black is the name of all of our race, but it's also one of the names of our ethnicity. And that's not the name of your ethnicity. I don't know how we got here from Charlie Kirk, so I'm going to go on ahead and get out of here. But in the words of Brother Minister Malcolm, chickens coming home to roost never made me sad. It only ever made me glad.